Think muscle cars are easy to find? Think again. These 15 cars are so rare you're more likely to win the lottery while riding a unicorn. From powerful Hemis to drop-top legends, this list is pure American horsepower gold. 15. Blink and you'll miss it. Literally. Only 57 of these things were ever made. The 1966 Ford Fairlane R-Code is one of those cars that doesn't just look cool, it means business. It's like the quiet kid in class who secretly runs a 10-second quarter mile. Under the hood, Ford dropped in the mighty 427 Cobra V8, pushing out 425 horsepower and 480 pound-feet of torque. That's enough to smoke the tires without even trying. Built for racers, this car was still somehow street legal. Barely. Forget the radio, it didn't have one. Why? Because the engine was the music. It had dual Holley carbs, front disc brakes, and no fancy extras. Just raw American power. And 1966? That was it. The last year the 427 Cobra ever showed up in a Fairlane. Ford basically said, "We're done here," and walked off like a mic drop. If the Torino and the Cobra Jet had an old-school, muscle-bound grandpa who tells wild stories about street racing, it's this R-Code. Rare, loud, powerful, and gone way too soon. 14. At first glance, this thing looks like your granddad's calm Sunday cruiser. Big, comfy, and built for slow drives to the diner, but give it a second, and it'll absolutely blow your doors off. This is the 1963 Chevy Impala Z11. A rare drag strip weapon hiding in plain sight. Only 57 were ever made, and each one was loaded with one goal: go fast. Under the hood sat a hand-built 427 cubic inch V8 pushing around 430 horsepower, and that's being modest. But here's the real trick. Chevy swapped steel for aluminum body panels, ditched the radio, heater, and even the front sway bar. Comfort? Nope. This thing was all about pure muscle, no extra fluff. Most people walked right past it, thinking it was just another Impala. But the smart ones? Yeah, they knew. They didn't just look, they made offers. It's a total drag demon in disguise and one of the sneakiest, coolest sleepers Chevy ever built. Quiet looks, loud performance, what's not to love? 13. Mopar didn't just mess around with fast street cars in 1967, they went all out crazy. Dodge and Plymouth each made just 55 of these beasts, called the WO23 and RO23, and they were built for one thing: winning drag races. Under the hood was the legendary 426 Hemi, a giant V8 that sounded like thunder and hit like a sledgehammer. To help these cars launch even harder, Mopar moved the battery to the trunk, ripped out the back seats, and made the whole thing lighter. But here's the really wild part. They gave the cars weaker brakes in the front and stronger ones in the back, just so the rear tires would grip better during takeoff. That's some next-level thinking. Were they legal? Barely. Were they fast? Absolutely. These cars weren't just muscle, they were legal loopholes on wheels made to shock anyone brave enough to line up next to them. 12. Only 11 of these monsters were ever made, just 10 in 1971. That's not rare, that's unicorn-level rare. This isn't just any old muscle car. This is a Hemi Cuda Convertible, and it's got street legend written all over it. Under the hood, the beastly 426 Street Hemi. Same engine as the hardtop, but this one lets you drop the top and let the thunder roll. It was basically a race car, with a sunburn. Was it practical? Nope. But who cares? This car was never about being sensible. It was about being loud, fast, and completely over the top. Just the way we like it. Today it's one of the most wanted muscle cars on Earth. So wanted, in fact, that one sold for over $3.5 million. That's not just collector cash, that's sell your house and maybe a relative kind of money. 11. It might not be the rarest muscle car ever made, but the 1970 Chevelle SS 454 LS6 is definitely one of the most respected. Chevy built about 4,475 of them, which sounds like a decent number, until you try to find a real one today that still has all the correct paperwork. Good luck with that. This beast came with a 454 cubic inch V8, also known as the LS6, making 450 horsepower. That's not just strong, it was one of the most powerful engines you could get in a street car at the time. It felt like a sledgehammer wrapped in sheet metal. Now here's the problem. There are a lot of fakes out there. If it doesn't have a build sheet or original documents, you might just be buying a nice-looking story. But get a real one, jackpot. One sold for over $1 million. That's big block power, big bragging rights, and seriously big money. 10. Only 17 of these were ever built. Yes, 17. That's not just rare. That's mythical. The GTO Judge was already a street legend, but the 1971 convertible version took things to a whole new level of cool. Under the hood, you got the mighty 455 HOV8, pushing out 335 horsepower and a massive 480 pound-feet of torque. It was loud, mean, and very fast. But back in the day, people didn't want drop-top muscle cars. They said convertibles were too noisy, too shaky, not serious enough for street battles. Well, guess what? That logic aged like milk in the sun. Today, this thing is a collector's dream, and good luck trying to find one in the wild. What once sat unsold on dealership lots is now $1 million superstar. Just goes to show, what flopped then rules now. 9. It weighed less than most muscle cars and cost more than your house back then and now. Only 3 ZL1 Corvettes were ever made. Just 2 were sold to the public. Yep, you basically had better odds of getting hit by lightning than owning one. What made it special? An all-aluminum 427 race engine, officially rated at 430 horsepower. But let's be real, everyone knew it made closer to 550 plus horsepower. This thing was a rocket in disguise. Here's where it gets wild. The ZL1 package alone cost $4,700, which was almost as much as the entire car itself. Most buyers took one look at that price and ran. But the 2 who said yes probably wake up smiling every single day. In 2023, one sold for $3.2 million. So yeah, if you passed on this one back then, big oof. 8. Twice in history, Dodge made the same huge mistake, and it's the reason we're all kicking ourselves today. In 1967 and 1970, Dodge made just 2 Hemi RT convertibles each year. 2. That's it. These weren't limited edition heroes, they were an honest-to-goodness production error. Under the hood, the legendary 426 Hemi V8, which made these drop-top monsters more like rolling thunder than regular cars. Sounds amazing, right? But here's the catch. Back then, people didn't really care much about rare muscle car convertibles. Today, those 2 Hemi RT convertibles are among the rarest Mopars ever made. Think of wanting one? Well, good luck getting it for cheap. If one shows up for sale now, it's pretty much guaranteed to cost you an arm and a leg, and maybe a kidney. A true mistake turned legendary, you're not finding another one. 7. Carroll Shelby was never one to do things halfway, so when he set out to create the wildest Cobra ever, he went all in. He slapped on dual Paxton superchargers to the 427 engine, cranking it up to a jaw-dropping 800 horsepower, and somehow he made it street legal. But here's the kicker. Only 2 of these beasts were ever made. One was for Shelby himself, and the other was gifted to comedian Bill Cosby. But Cosby quickly found out that this car was a whole new level of terrifying. He returned it after barely driving it. And the second one? It went off a cliff into the Pacific Ocean. Yeah, really. Shelby's personal Super Snake eventually sold for an eye-watering $5.5 million, proving just how legendary it became. Despite the crashes and the close calls, the Super Snake lives on as an almost mythical machine. 6. You know how sometimes cars come along that are so out of this world, they make you wonder what the people behind them were thinking. Well, here's a perfect example. Carroll Shelby, the genius behind some of the most iconic muscle cars, took a Ford GT 40 Le Mans engine and shoved it into a GT 500 Mustang. The result? A 427 V8 engine that could hit 170 miles per hour, making it the fastest Mustang of its time. Ford thought it was incredible, but when they saw the price tag, they hit the brakes. Only one was made, just one, that's it. Shelby's creation was a one-off masterpiece. Then in 2019, this one-of-a-kind Super Snake Mustang sold for $2.2 million. So yeah, not just rare, it's the rarest Mustang in the world. Talk about a car that deserves its place in history. 5. Hold on to your seats, because this one is a rare beast. The 1970 Roadrunner Hemi was built for one thing: budget muscle. It wasn't about fancy gadgets or luxury, it was about pure, unfiltered power at a price you could actually afford. But the convertible Hemi version? That's a whole different level of special. Only 3 of these cars were ever made with the legendary 426 Hemi engine under the hood. That's right, 3. Packing 425 horsepower with either a 4-speed manual or 3-speed automatic transmission, it was fast, loud, and surprisingly refined for a car named after a cartoon character. But here's the kicker. This was muscle with class. One of these rare gems went for $214,500 at auction, and that wasn't even the original engine. Can you imagine what a numbers-matching original would bring today? It's enough to make any car lover drool. 4. Buick muscle car? Believe it or not, yes. The 1972 Buick GSX455 wasn't exactly the first name that popped up when you thought about muscle cars, but it absolutely should have been. It was a sleeper, blending subtlety with serious power. With 375 pound-feet of torque and a supposed 250 horsepower, but really closer to 350 horsepower, this full-size muscle machine was ready to show what Buick was capable of. Back in 1972, no one was exactly rushing to buy a banana yellow Buick with a spoiler. People just didn't see the potential. But fast forward to today, and these things are rare gems. Unicorns in the muscle car world. Only 4 of them exist, making them some of the rarest cars you'll ever come across. A top-tier example is valued at around $46,900, but honestly, it's worth so much more in history and nostalgia. If you find one, count yourself lucky. This Buick deserves way more credit than it ever got. 3. The Dodge Super Bee was already a beast, but with the 426 Hemi, it was on a whole new level. The 426 Hemi Super Bee is one of the rarest muscle cars you'll ever hear of. Only 4 were ever made with the legendary 426 Hemi engine, and with 490 pound-feet of torque, this thing didn't just burn rubber, it turned it into vapor. Back in the day, most buyers went for the 383 or 440 engines, making the Hemi version an ultra-rare gem that barely anyone got their hands on. Big mistake. Today, if you can track one down, it could easily fetch $146,000 or more. And that's if it's in mint condition. These cars are as rare as they come, and owning one would put you in a very exclusive club. This isn't just about the Hemi engine, this is a muscle car dream that few ever got to live. 2. Here's a muscle car you don't see every day. The '66 Dodge Coronet Hemi Convertible. Only 6 were ever made. Yep, you heard that right. And back in the day, nobody was asking for a convertible version with the Hemi. It was a rare, bold move that turned heads for all the wrong reasons. But today, collectors are banging their heads against the wall wishing they'd grabbed one when they had the chance. Why? Because it's an absolute monster of a car sporting a 425 horsepower Hemi engine that gives it that classic Mopar growl. You know, the one that gets your heart racing. This car is more than just a pretty face. It's a top-down, high-revving legend in the making. And the price today? A Concours d'Elegance value of just under $70,000, which feels like a steal for something this incredibly rare. Mopar fans, the clock's ticking. If you've got the chance, it's time to cash in. 1. Ever wonder what happens when NASCAR and muscle cars collide? Well, you're looking at it. The 1969 Dodge Charger Daytona, a car that's practically a race car with a street license. Only 22 units were made, and these things are as rare as a unicorn. But it's not just rare for the sake of being rare. This car was built for performance, with its aerodynamic nose cone and massive rear wing that made it a record breaker on the track. Powered by the legendary 426 Hemi engine and paired with a 4-speed transmission, it's a muscle car legend that earned its place in history. In 2023, one of these sold for a staggering $1.43 million. And trust me, that price is only going to rise as this mythical beast becomes even harder to find. If you happen to come across one, don't hesitate. You're looking at a true automotive icon. And that's it. 15 muscle cars so rare they're almost like finding a needle in a haystack. If you ever see one, consider yourself lucky. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and keep chasing those horsepower dreams.